We're back with our great panel, Paul Butler, Katie Benner, and Frank Figliuzzi. I want to talk about these co-conspirators for just a moment. I want to go to you first, Katie, and see if you've got any intel or reporting, because the one person we haven't been able to figure out is co-conspirator number 6. Is there any reporting that reveals who that might be?
You know, not yet, and that is the piece of reporting that every reporter is pursuing right now. It's true. It was pretty easy to identify the first 5 co-conspirators, but on the 6th, it's just a political consultant that's extremely broad, and Trump did use several political consultants, and a lot of them were doing little bits and pieces of what's described in this indictment. They were trying to convince local legislators to accept the idea that there was voter fraud. They were helping to come up with different plans and different ways to implement, for example, pressure campaigns on somebody like Mike Pence to file lawsuits in several states. So I think it's going to take a while to figure out who exactly that person is. But what is interesting is to see whether or not the Justice Department in subsequent weeks ends up indicting any of these co-conspirators, because I think we'll not only see, if that happens, not only will we see the identities of some of these people confirmed and revealed, we could actually see more information that would help us to understand what kind of case that Jack Smith and his prosecutors could bring in court, particularly vis-a-vis this idea that Trump knew he had indeed lost the election. What we see in this indictment is that Trump is told that he lost the election, but what we don't see anywhere is Trump acknowledging it himself. So it will be interesting to see what happens as more people are put on notice that they could be indicted themselves.
Well, the one place I think, Katie, that the only dispute is that there's the one place where he says we're going to hand it to the next guy. Because I feel like everything that's in here is very deliberate. And he does put in that line that Trump says we'll hand it to the next guy, which to me says he's like, he's not the next guy. But it's an excellent point nonetheless. Let me come back to you, Paul, because... Oh, no, go ahead. Go on.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that's true. And that is our one piece of Trump's state of mind that would imply that he knew. And again, basically what the prosecution is doing is putting people on notice that unless they cooperate and provide more information to the Justice Department, they could be indicted too. And so it'll be interesting to see. These are people who have had private conversations with the former president where he might have slipped up and said something like that. It will be interesting to see what happens.
And Frank, you do have John Eastman already putting out a statement saying he will never flip. He will never turn on Trump. He will never do a deal. But Trump's lawyers have made it clear that part of their defense is Eastman did it. Eastman told me. Eastman is an eminent legal scholar, and I just listened to him. So Trump is going to throw Eastman under the bus, and Eastman is saying, I'm never leaving his side. Makes no sense.
Well, nothing in the past several years has made any sense with regard to the loyalty shown to Trump by people who seemingly just can't get another job without him. I don't understand it either. But I will tell you this, as damning as this indictment is about Trump, and I understand the indictment is all about Trump, and I understand the strategy behind that, it is equally, if not more damning to these co-conspirators.
Yes. And
I find it hard to believe that even if some of them decide to cooperate, I don't think any of them, based on what we're seeing in these 45 pages, is going to be allowed to completely skate. Why? 2 reasons. The severity of what is described regarding their criminal conduct in this indictment. And secondly, Smith already has Trump. He's got him. Yes, it would be helpful to get more. Of course, it's always helpful to get more. But they can't skate, and they're in deep trouble.
Yeah, that's right. You typically need to be able to give somebody higher than you. Well, there's nobody higher. They've already got Trump. It's an excellent point.